Paul Ferguson's first brush with fame came when he posted a Facebook video 5 days after his brother Timothy, the victim of a prolonged torture campaign, died and his mother was arrested. Paul, seated comfortably in the filthy suburban house on Marshall Road with a dog in his lap, casually assured everyone listening that he was doing good, doing just fine. He showed none of the genuine emotion a listener might expect from someone who lost 2 members of his family in less than a week. He even managed a wry smile.
Those of you who aren't aware, my little brother has passed away, and my mother is currently in the custody of, well, I'm not sure if it's a lot to deal with, but right now we're doing good. We're fine.
But what is emotion to someone who can tap into little more than their anger or the escapism of a fantasy world, who, instead, uses mimicry to appease or manipulate, who is capable of changing from a passive mama's boy who uses words like dadgummit for police to an X-rated sex fiend for a prison pen pal who's made him believe she's hot for his body. It's going to take a few videos to dissect how Paul mirrors and manipulates others, but for today, I'll start with what struck me during the police interrogation. Other people have broken down the interrogation itself, but I've yet to see anyone mention the story that Paul was telling with his body. He started off mimicking the wall sits that he made Timothy do daily, perched like a child in his chair. His purpose in doing this seems to be to say, "See, it's not so bad. I could do this for a long time. It's not as horrible as those texts make it out to be. And maybe you'll ask if I was abused like this too." Eventually, Paul moves to place his hands behind his head, a position he and his mother forced Timothy to take for hours at a time, and the purpose seems the same, if not more obvious. It's another nonverbal gesture that says, "I can do it, so Timothy could too. It doesn't hurt. The punishment inflicted on my brother was harmless." The interrogator doesn't seem to be following Paul's body script, so Paul tells him the story of the time his father made him hold out his arms until he was jelly. He demonstrates this position. Paul is very aware that a camera is recording him. He can't help but stare into the lens several times. In one somewhat jarring clip, he even smiles slightly, an expression known as Duper's delight, as he begs the officer to believe we weren't neglecting him. As Paul begins to believe the detective, who has so far assured him that he thinks his mother is the only true culprit, Paul relaxes. He settles then on mimicking remorse and contrition. During the same interview, Paul makes it clear that he dislikes his father. He believes it was unfair that his father made him get 2 part-time jobs after graduating high school and took half his pay, or $200. He doesn't believe his father knew how to raise males. He was resentful over not being given a cell phone, and he believed Eric lied to him for years about his mother. Yet when he was in jail, he called his father often. During the interview, which began with Paul effusively defending Shonda, he didn't mention the $200 in rent he paid to her, or the many fast food dinners he bought, or the number of times he gave her gas money. He didn't talk about being forced awake at 6 a.m. every day to walk Shanda's dog, or the number of times he was told to stay awake and watch Timothy as well as his younger brother, or how many times She micromanaged everything he did, from screen time to snack shopping. For Paul, these sacrifices were worth the frustration. He was bonding with his mother over their shared desire to torture Timothy. Paul had been held back from expressing his anger for years, but in Shonda he found someone who saw purpose in it, who encouraged it, and, as he later told police, the power just went to his head.